welcome. Like we said, this is our first podcast. Korey, I'm sure you and I will be stumbling through it a little bit, but this is going to be the fun part.
It's going to be so fun, Joe.
Yeah, we're going to get an opportunity tonight to talk about who we are and why we're doing this.
Yeah, no, lots of good content for sure to follow.
I'll jump off right off the bat, Korey. I'll explain a little bit to the audience who I am, and then I'm going to pass it off to you, and we'll kind of explain a little bit about who we are and how we got into the industry. This obviously goes back a little bit farther for me than you, but when we started setting this up, I was kind of thinking, now how far back do we go? But
all the way, Joe, all the way back.
And I wrote that down because I think I remember the first time. My goal going through high school when I started going to college was I was going to be a landscape architect. But I struggled with school. I'm not going to get you wrong. So instead of finishing, I ended up joining the Marine Corps. But it all started in junior high on a project in a school atrium. And I had this teacher that was working with this project where we were landscaping. And even in 77 and 1978, back in 7th grade, he couldn't believe what an eye I had for the green industry, for where to plant what and what. And I'm like, so he was an awesome science professor, teacher. I wish I could remember his name, but it was a long time ago. And that kick-started it. And then 2 years later, on the family farm is my first experience with a chainsaw at 14. Clearing stuff, running chainsaws at 14. And once I had a chainsaw in my hand, and I'm not sure if it's the same with you, Korey, is that the sound, the smell, the feel, the feel in your hand, the sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Brother, I was hooked. So at 14, which is going to be 42 years ago.
Wow, that's a lot of math, Joe.
I started working with chainsaws and loved it. Got in, and I never, even back then, I didn't know that there was a profession of tree care. I'm not going to say I'm naive, but it just was never on my radar. And again, like I said, all the way through high school, doing tree work for family and friends, cutting stuff up with my chainsaw. And then it really didn't take a turn towards professional arboriculture until I got out of the Marine Corps. Still doing tree work, and gotta wet my whistle.
It's always a good time for that.
I was doing a bunch of odd jobs. I was an exterminator, got my pesticide applicator's license. I was still doing tree work on the side. Like everybody does tree work on the side, it seemed like, but I really did not know about ISA, TCIA, or anything professional about arboriculture. Then I signed on with my first. I finally just said, man, I love this too much. Picked up back when you would look for a job in the newspaper. There was a tree care company not far from my house hiring. And at first they hired me only because I had a pesticide applicator's card. So I never sprayed a tree or did anything plant healthcare in my life. So I'm like, all right. So I hired in, man, I loved it. They introduced me to ISA. The name of the company was Alpine Tree Care, and Steve Podgewit, the owner, and I are still pretty good friends. He comes over and he'll have a pop with me, adult beverage, or what do you call them, Polish sodas? Or
That's right. Polish sodas.
We've had a few of them here around the wood burning stove. And then, the years went by working with him. He introduced me to professional arboriculture. Times got tight in the early 90s. I got laid off and got picked up with another tree care company called Chaz F. Irish. Chaz F. Irish at that time that I hired in was 97-year-old company.
Wow.
And that's where my love of history and my love of arboriculture blended. And during my time there, a lot of guys in the industry, some of the old timers, even Ed Irish, who is on the video Legends of Arboriculture, is who I worked for. ISA's 75th anniversary. It was in the 90s. So wow. I worked for Ed Irish, his son Chuck, And then lo and behold, an invasive insect, emerald ash borer, landed on a radar, and I was in Michigan where it was, and boom, 2002, 2003, I started working with ArborJet. So now I've been with ArborJet for 18, going on 19 years, and I'll honestly say that I will retire someday and still be part of the field of arboriculture.
Wow.
So that's as short as it can get. I love talking, and I love arboriculture, and I love history, but that's how I got into it.
Now, Joe, you working for both of those companies prior to coming to ArborJet, you got hired on as a climber or ground tech. What else were you doing? Applicator?
You know, the company Alpine was so small, you had to do everything.
Yeah.
That's I didn't know. You know, I'd climbing trees, but never professionally with rope and saddle. You know, for family and friends, taking a branch down. You know, just shitting your ass up there and then make a cut. But
Oh yeah.
you didn't realize the hazard there until someone pointed it out. So Steve and the other owner, Paul Schaefer, those guys taught me how to climb. You know, and then like I said, if you can see in my shop above me, I have a pulley and a clevis where if I'm on a call, I'll actually sit in my rope and saddle and swing around while I'm talking. They taught me how to climb, and then I took my climbing experience and over to Chaz F. Irish. Now, Chaz F. Irish was a lot bigger company, historic company. And with my pesticide applicators card, I already had 5 or 6 years of plant healthcare under my belt.
Yeah.
I kind of started to manage the plant healthcare and the climbing departments. So it was the best of both worlds. So if somebody didn't show up, which happens in the tree care business, I'd plug a hole in the dam. I'd either go do plant healthcare for that day, or I'd go take a tree down. I still love both sides of it. I rec climb. Michigan's got some good programs where they do rec climbs, and not as much as I probably should, but yeah, started off dragon brush like most guys, spraying a few trees. I remember the first time they sent me out on a spray rig. They go, "You got to go out and spray these houses today." I'm like, "For what?" I'm like, "Well, I think it was early spring for leaf disease." I'm like, "Well, how am I supposed to know what to spray?" I'm like, "I don't know, figure it out." And they pushed me out the door, and I went out and figured it out on my own.
Wow. Thrown to the fire. What better way to learn, huh?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Uh, how did you know, Korey, we talk quite a bit through work, but how did you get involved? You know, we were talking about some of your extracurriculars. You know, obviously you're a professional skier, but arboriculture? How did you get into that?
Yeah, no, great question, Joe. So, similar to you, I was in must have been 6th or 7th grade, and I remember that science teacher that really got me excited about it, because he's my dad, Mr. Lofy. Anyhow, back in southeastern Wisconsin, we had some courses on biology. And when we got to the trees and we got to talking about, when you're younger and maybe you've got kids that are that age that will put together a leaf sample every fall, right,
Yep.
where they identify a maple versus an oak. Obviously, we had more options to choose from back in the Midwest than we do in Colorado. But I remember putting that together around that time and showing that off to the class and just having almost made it a competition, but it was just so fascinating that how much was out there. So that was really the start. And then it was around 13 years old where I got hired on full time at a nursery and greenhouse. And there was already a specialist for the indoor plants. There was a specialist for the perennials, and there were even specialists just for shrubs. But I kind of gravitated towards the trees. And when it came time to wrap up high school and select my next steps in life, I ended up going to Wisconsin at Stevens Point, where I had
Amazing school.
great outdoor school, kind of really good with the natural resources. And I actually think I met you there. Did you ever work with Rich Hauer or Les Warner or
Yes.
anything? I actually met you, Joe, and we haven't, folks listening, we haven't talked about this before. I met ArborJet Joe Aiken in, must have been 2008, 2009. you came and did a demo with some of the trunk injection equipment.
It was funny that you brought that up. I still have Wisconsin EAB guidebook from that year in my office. And there was a bunch of professors up on stage with 300 arborists in a room talking about there's nothing you can do, that all the trees in Michigan have died already. And I raised my hand. They didn't know who I was. And I'm like, how do you know that all the trees in Michigan died? And he says, well, we've seen it. And I says, well, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'll tell you right now, all the ash trees are not dead. It was like someone stopped the music playing and everybody started asking me questions. And I kind of felt bad because they stopped asking the panel questions.
Hey, that's okay.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Sometimes life experiences can go just as far. But yeah, so anyhow, that I think that's where I met you, Joe, 10, 15, whatever, however many years ago it was. But anyhow, through a series of failed internships and opportunities, I actually climbed my first tree out in Virginia, working for a company out there just for the summer. And professionally, I guess you could say climbed it, although I really just, I tied the Blake's hitch, and the foreman at the time, watched me struggle to get up this tree. But
everybody laughed.
Oh yeah, but it was fun. I mean, you got to get exposed to it at some point, and I was hooked. Just like you talk about how you get that chainsaw in your hand, and it's just it's a sensory overload. And from there, I didn't even look for positions doing anything else other than skiing or guiding. Any manual labor I was going to do, or anything I wanted to do in a career setting, was going to be to trees. So I ended up moving around the country, skiing and guiding, Alaska, Jackson Hole, Colorado, moved to Minnesota to start working with the tree outfit there, because they really needed somebody that had an interest in trees and had a background or education in it. So we took that, rolled with that, learned how to climb a little bit better. But man, once they got the bucket truck, I suddenly, that elbow doesn't work as well, that shoulder doesn't work as well. 75 foot rear mount bucket truck. You get real creative with coming up with reasons on why you need to use it.
Oh, it went out every day. Yeah. What's interesting is that, you're obviously a few years younger than me. And one of the questions I always have in today's industry is that obviously both you and I are in the plant healthcare direction in our careers now, looking for solutions, tree preservation. Tree preservation is a term I don't think we use enough in the industry. But my body hurts. And what if I would have went to plant healthcare sooner and wouldn't have climbed and put my body through what I did for as long as I did?
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. But think about how much more of a well-rounded arborist you are, and the folks in the industry that can combine, right, all these different facets. I mean, you get a way more complete picture. And something you and I talk about, and I'm happy to go there right now, is our field, the field of arboriculture and forestry. It's bigger than just plant healthcare. It's bigger than just climbing.
Most definitely. There's we've all, both you and I, have got some amazing opportunities through the years, and because of this industry. Just so the audience knows that I technically are supposed to be the East Coast and Corey's on the other side of the Mississippi. So we're going to have a really well diverse group of professionals that we can call on around North America. So it's going to be pretty exciting as we continue to move forward on this podcast endeavor.
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting for sure, Joe. I mean, you've got contacts, and I look forward to seeing where we go with this podcast. But you've got different parts of forestry that a lot of people, if you don't study it in college, or if you're not part of the Forest Service, or working with the feds, you just won't get.
Yeah, it's I was laughing the other day. I had some, like I said, I do love arboriculture, but I'm realistic enough to realize that um, I think one of the most profound presentations I've ever went to was early in my career. It's got to be 20, 25 years ago. Dr. Kim Coder from the University of Georgia, phenomenal presenter. I'm not even sure if he's presenting anymore. He's probably retired, but his first thing that really had a revelation to me was that a tree is a living organism and then they're all going to fail. And I'm standing there like, holy, and then he goes, but in whose lifetime is it? Like, all right, now I got it. So I'm thinking about making this. I have a sawmill also. What I was trying to get to is that I know trees have to come down. And I know that there's a big push, especially in Minnesota, Wisconsin right now, about urban wood reutilization. So part of the neat thing that you and I can discuss is it's not all about plant and healthcare, that pile of chainsaws behind me. It's about all the other great things that we get to do with wood. I'm a craftsman, so I got a portable sawmill, and I love playing with it. But I'm going to make a shadow box because I am such a pack rat that I probably have never thrown away in 20 years a single name tag or a badge from a conference that I attended.
Wow.
So you talk about that 25 years of not only attending conferences and classes, but presenting. In the heyday, I could probably have done 30 or 40 presentations in a season.
Wow.
So I'm going to put that together. And you're right. I chose a different path. Never finished my degree, even though I tried a few times. But the life experience of being in the field and then attending, I don't know, what do you think, 50 to 60 a year for 20 years of seminars and conferences and ISA events and TCIA conferences. It's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. What's that worth, Joe? Because in our industry, we do need to raise the bar. So part of my vision for the conversations we have is just raise the bar. Not everybody has to go to college for this. Not everybody needs to go to all the conferences that you and I are so blessed to be able to be a part of, but just to open our minds to the opportunity. And, you and I talk to tree professionals every day, guys and gals, and university is great. And I don't think either you nor I would dissuade anyone from going, but it can't beat what 30, 40 years in the industry holding all these positions. And it just can't beat that. There are so many things that I'm grateful for the education with Dr. Howard Warner Daruska back in Wisconsin. But you get out of there and it's humbling, isn't it, Joe? I mean, every week you and I we learn something new, or we get exposed to something that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Oh yeah. And like I said, the last 5 or 6 years, I've been really involved in preserving the history of arboriculture, which is, and I've always been a history buff, but I'm like, we have phenomenal companies like Davey, Bartlett, Ash Blunt. Wright Tree is almost 90 years old, for God's sakes. We got some big tree companies that have been around since, I got John Davies' book behind me from 1902.
Wow.
The tree surgeon. And you think about what we do, and it's pretty cyclic how if we don't pay attention to history, we're going to repeat ourselves. So I've been involved, recently, thank God for the company we work for. I get to dabble into history, and part of my responsibility is restoring a historic sawmill and showing the world what arboriculture is going to be about. So,
and it keeps changing. For as much as it's been, Joe, it keeps changing, doesn't it?
We're on an incline.
Yeah.
Arboriculture is becoming more and more mechanized. These nifty lifts. I was laughing the other day. My neighbor helped me push a ball cart up a hill. And I was laughing. You know what? If you went to an arborist today and told him to grab a ball cart, he probably wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what's that?
Everybody's got a little mini loader. Everything's mechanized, and there's a purpose for it. Don't get me wrong; I'm not bashing it. I sure wish I had a mini loader to pull those logs up the hill, but I didn't. But
Mm.
it is exciting. There are things, if you think about the climbing techniques, that's when you learn versus the climbing technique that they're all using now. And there's a lot of DRS, which was double rope, now to single rope.
Did you
And
did you learn how to climb on a Blake's hitch, Joe?
actually, before the Blake's, a taunt line.
A taunt line. I've only heard of that.
Yeah, it's what's amazing is that the Blakes and the taunt line. Well, the Blakes was a lot safer than the taunt line, but those knots would run if you weren't paying attention. And if you didn't put a stopper knot on the tail, you could be up there working. Next thing you know, because every time you load it and unload it, it would work itself free.
Sure.
And next thing you know, you're taking a little run to the ground faster than you thought.
Uncontrolled rapid descent. What, Joe? What do you climb on now? If I do a rec climb or two a year, it's going to be off of VT, and I'm going to have somebody double check my knot because I don't do it enough. But what do you climb off of? What does Arborjet Joe use?
It really all depends on how long I'm going to be in the tree. That's what's amazing is that one of my good friends is Kevin Bingham, who invented the rope wrench. So he took a theory and then put it from, he's one of the guys that really started revolutionizing climbing and doing tree work on a single rope. And then just by attending these conferences, so I like the rope wrench, single rope system, but I found a new knot that because it's, back in the day, there was two ropes. And until the early 90s, when Samson came up with Arborplex, everybody claimed on 3-strand manila rope, and you had 2 or 3 things you could do with it. There's got to be 300 different types of cordage right now, and press it cords and hitches.
Wow.
So I like, believe it or not, I like the Petzl zigzag. I feel really comfortable on it, and they came out with a chicane that is kind of I don't want to say a knockoff because I don't want to disrespect anybody, but it is another friction device put above on a single line event on a device that wasn't designed for a single line. And then by attending all these events, a great arborist down in Kentucky showed me the Catalan, which is another friction knot with a press-it cord on SRS with a rope wrench. That is my favorite. Now it's my all-time go-to knot.
No kidding.
Yeah, you can load it, unload it. It doesn't adjust. It just stays right there, and it's actually it's amazing how some of these guys just by one turn, one twist, one loop, and how it changes how that reacts on the line. So that's what I'm going on. But if I'm playing around rec climbing, I'll put the zigzag up there.
Sure.
I like the hand ascender. I'm getting a little older and slower, so I'll go to a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 and put a hand ascender with a micro pulley on there and put my foot ascender on, pull myself up. It's actually pretty fun playing around with all that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's something I wish we had more of. And I don't know what things look like on the east side of the Mississippi. I know there are a couple of groups in Denver as well as in Salt Lake that do rec climbs. So for any of the arborists listening, I'm sure everybody's community has a Facebook page that they could be a part of. And that's where when you and I still go to these climbing contests and we get to see what some of these younger guys and gals are doing, and we can get exposed to the new stuff. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, you know what? I got to be careful because I don't do it daily anymore, but there's some really impressive and amazing stuff being introduced to these young guys. But I had a good discussion the other day with a newer young arborist, a tree climber, certified tree climber. He's like, man, do you know how to tie the Blakes or the taunt line? And he's like, why would I need that? Today's technology, we don't need that stuff anymore. And I'm thinking, well, you might still want to be able to start with the basics, because if anything ever happened with your mechanical device, how are you going to get out of the tree?
That's just it. It's a safety. It's safety.
And unfortunately, there's more and more people climbing, and there's still a lot of guys getting hurt every year in the climbing side. So yeah, it's great to see some of this new stuff coming out. And I think I'm not, you know what, and a lot of it is all closed systems, so there's no exposure to an open system like the old Blakes that or the taunt line, which could be an open system. But um, it's an amazing it's amazing how fast it's growing and how many cool things are coming out. Like I said, I'm a gadget guy. I could go to a tree care supplier and just walk around for hours picking all that crap up and playing around with it.
Ooh, well, Christmas is coming, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna sneak up there maybe even tomorrow to my local distributor and see what else they got, kind of sales got going on.
You know what? We should try out some of that stuff and give it a review.
I think, yeah, I think it'd be good. Because I think we could do it. What's the word I'm thinking of? We could do it on unbiased. Like I said, I got my 40 years experience, your 20 years experience. Um, Speaking of, when's the last time you've been in a tree, Korey?
Well, oh man, officially tied in rope and saddle and all that. It would be September of 2019, and it was a 28-inch Kentucky coffee tree.
Okay.
And that was for a non-for-profit event that I'm sure we'll discuss at some point later. But it was for a good cause, and I was around some really good arborists and up-and-coming arborists, and of course, they tied the knot to get me up there. But yeah, I still do like to get up there. I wish I had more time for it. And I think in this off season, especially as you and I are kind of getting ready for virtual trade shows and everything else, I think it's going to open up some afternoons where, hey, I live, 15, 20 minutes from Rocky Mountain National Park. I'm going to go find a big old pondy, and I'm going to work my way to the top. If there are any listeners in the Denver area, hit me up, let me know, and we'll go do it.
Yeah, I think that's. I think don't lose your roots. Don't lose
Yeah.
your beginning of it. Um, I'm one of the biggest tree nerds you're ever going to meet, and I love the science side of it. God help me. There's a saying that the more you know, the less you know.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that out to be true. You'd think that after so many years that, what direction you go. But I honestly can say I'm still excited about this industry as I was 40 years ago.
That's so cool. That's so cool to hear it from you, Joe.
And you know what and I sense it from you. We care. We care about what we do and who we talk to and how we say it. And, there's ethics there. And that's all we're going to do is make sure that everybody knows that what we're talking about is the best of our knowledge. And we're going to do it right. We're going to tell you what we feel and how we feel about it.
That's 100% right, Joe. I don't see that going anywhere else for us or for this group. It is exciting though to think about how many different perspectives that we're going to be able to bring into this thing.
Yeah, you know what I said, with your just getting to know each other more, letting our listeners know more about each other. But I think the GoPro is going to be fun. When you go up get that Ponderosa pine, you find a good, a whopper, and you get up in there. I tell you what, I'll between Thanksgiving and Christmas, one of our podcasts, we're going to have to tape ourselves as sending in because I have some 100 to 120 foot virgin white pines on our property up north.
Wow.
So they're 40 to 45 inches in diameter. They're mammoth. I'll do the same thing. I'll ascend into one of them big babies, and you send into one of yours.
Oh,
maybe we'll do part of the podcast from the top of a tree.
You know what? We could do the podcast from the top. I like that idea, Joe. I like that idea. Now I'm gonna have to find a bucket truck or somebody to haul me up there 100 feet
and just set you up in there so you didn't act like you all out of breath. Woo, that was a tough
elevation really gets to you. No, that would
Oh,
be really cool, Joe. I can't promise that we're gonna. Well, I don't think we're gonna find any white pines out here that size, but we'll find something. I'll get into a podcast and riff a little bit, and then folks can let us know what they think.
yeah, and that's all part of it is with our contacts and our years of experience in the industry. I just hope that the listeners give us an opportunity to let us know what's on their mind, and we could dig in on it and help them out.
That's 100% it, Joe. That is going to be our main focus is giving back to the industry, just bringing in a bunch of different perspectives, different experts in different fields. But there are people that are listening to this podcast right now, or will be when it airs, that I'm sure you and I can learn a ton off of. And if we don't take advantage of that and get them on this platform and in front of other people to tell, we're not doing our due diligence as leading arborists in this day and age.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's been a lot of it. And like I said, it's not like I don't know of any other arboriculture podcasts, and I may be naive and I really didn't dig. So if there are, God bless you, keep going. If there's not, maybe we need more.
We
But
definitely need more, Joe.
in today's day and age, um, we have this forum where we can spread a lot of information quickly to a lot of people that could benefit from it. And I don't know about you, Corey, but I'm willing to learn too. I want to learn something.
No, that's the beauty of it. Is I think you and I are both at places in our careers where, for as much as we've seen and as little as we know, right? There's always a lot more that we can figure out. And if folks have been exposed, or maybe they're coming from outside industries, coming to this one, it's exciting. New technology, new people, new generations are coming up. So we've got some really good topics that we can be talking to people about. And Joe, you and I are both going to learn a lot. I mean, all the listeners, hopefully, they get something out of it too. So it's
Oh yeah.
not just a therapy session, not just because our therapist told us, Joe, that we need to talk to more people.
Well, I just hope that the listeners understand that it's not always going to be strictly arboriculture, urban forestry. I want to take them to my mill. I want to take them to a sawmill. Urban wood reutilization. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Urban Wood Network is a huge nationwide organization that the last stats that I've seen is like $1.8 billion worth of timber is wrecked and trashed every year because we don't do anything with it out of urban landscapes.
Wow.
So it's staggering. It is absolutely staggering. But I know that a University of Wisconsin Stevens Point is big on urban wood reutilization. Minnesota is getting bigger. Michigan State University now has a shadows program where we can go visit them, and any tree that comes down on campus goes through the shadows program,
Oh,
and they're
cool.
reutilizing it into things. You guys can't see it, but if you look right down here, if you guys check us out on YouTube, making signs. My buddy bought a CNC wood mill where he's making wooden signs out of some of the scraps from my sawmill.
Oh, how cool is that, Joe?
So there's all kinds of things that we can be doing in urban forestry that we may not discuss enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for folks too, Joe, you and I have talked about this in greater detail, but it would be really nice to get some of the listeners' perspective. What do the listeners want to hear about? If they want to hear about the newest chainsaw or maybe some protective equipment, or hey, what are people in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, what are they doing in the winter to stay warm? How do your hands not ice up? The topics are endless, so we could take it whatever direction you want to go, whatever direction the listeners want to go. We're happy to help at least facilitate the conversation.
Oh my God, Jed! I think we have enough contacts through the industry. I was very fortunate that we're going to share on one of our podcasts. As I had an opportunity to speak with the former president of the Michigan State Forestry Club, who now works for the U.S. Forest Service out in Idaho. She's doing smoke jumping, and she's doing it all. And we had an opportunity to sit down with her over the summer when she was in town. And, even that, the forestry side, there's some amazing young foresters coming out of these programs that I'd love to highlight some of the things that they get to do. A lot of that stuff trickles down to us eventually, but maybe we can cause a bridge to get some important stuff from the USDA to the state, to the guys in the field on an everyday tree crew.
Let them know that, it's not just a tunnel vision. It's not just a timber cruising. It's not just a buck and chuck removal service. There's more, Joe. There's more out there. And that's how we're going to raise the bar. That's how we're going to move this industry forward.
Oh, yeah. We could talk about the bar I'm sitting at. I made a bar for a trade show from a tree I had to take down on my own property. And because I preserved that historic white pine and created something with it, it's going to be a family heirloom that's going to be passed down, and my kids are going to fight over it. Heck, I got Santa Claus came and visited my kids this weekend, and I got some backdrops that are made from reclaimed telephone poles, Western red cedar, and they're beautiful.
Wow. So, where'd you get those?
A good friend and a good partner in arboriculture, Jason Kappen, does energy clearance in Michigan. And he had a pile of them, and we got them milled up into some slab wood. And I made them traditionally for a trade show because let's face it, anybody in the tree industry or anything with this green industry, it's a warm, loving feeling. It's like I'll set up one time for a taping in front of the wood burning stove and just have the fire crackling. But it's just the warmth that wood gives. A rough cut backdrop. So Santa Claus even loved it, and he asked me if I could probably make him one for some of other events that he has to stop and do. And I told him that I would love to help Santa Claus out.
You got to help Santa. Plus, that earns you a spot on the nice list for quite a few years, Joe.
Yeah, if I would just, I gotta keep my mouth shut. I don't want to lose any Santa points. But it was really exciting to see someone, to see what you and I are excited about, to see someone else excited about it. It's got to keep me going. So yeah, please, if there's anybody out there, let us know. There's some. We're gonna set up some really cool interviews with some really amazing people in the industry. I'm getting excited about it, trying to figure out who and what and when and get it all set up. So it's gonna be fun.
That's right, folks. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll both be here, and in the outro, we'll get you some of the contact info so that you can send us any of your questions, concerns. Maybe you've got a good idea that we can take and run with. And once again, this is just for the betterment of our industry. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and like I said, whatever you need to do, reach out to us and let us know, and we're here for you. And I'm looking forward to sharing my 40-something years with you guys, and hopefully you can learn something of it. And please teach me something too.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
All right, Corey. Peace out.
Hey, great topic today.
Yes, and lots of good information.
Yeah, probably one of our best yet.
If you enjoyed the podcast or have topics you would like to discuss, please send them to discoveringforestry@gmail.com. And please hit the subscribe button and tell a friend.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Joe.
And I'm Corey.
Signing out.